Let's take a look at where we left off last time. You can see here that when I press play, down at the bottom in my game window, I can type my name and then I can press tab and it prompts me and says, "Welcome to Alex's Adventure Game." Now, what I'd like to do is create the next essentially window that appears, but what we're going to be doing is learning about basic programming as we go. So we did learn a little bit about variables, whether it's in previous classes, that this is a variable of type output text. Now, we didn't learn a lot about data types and stuff, and I feel like getting into that granular where we're like an integer, a float, like changing the type that the variable can store gets a little too granular and low level. So I feel like as we progress and we program, you'll start to see variable types changing and all that stuff introduced. The next thing I'd like to do is introduce you to switch statements. We've already talked about logic, like switching logic with this if statement. And just to be clear, what an if statement is and the structure behind it is you have this keyword if, and whatever's inside of these parentheses here has to be true in order for it to execute this code. So for instance, this is a pretty simple if statement. If we press the tab key, then we run all of this code where we have a variable that can hold letters. It's called enter name, and what it's storing is whatever's inside of this field here. So once we hit tab, it's going to grab whatever's in that input field, store it inside of enter name. If our entered name variable here is not empty or null, we make it equal to whatever entered name is here, right? Player name equals entered name, and entered name is right here. And then we just spit this out to the scene. Now the $sign allows us to take this variable player name and enter it right into this line of text here, instead of having to do the appending it or concatenating it by hitting a plus sign. And then this line of code here just clears out that field for me. Now, as a general rule, I don't like to keep a bunch of code inside of my update function. I usually will just create a function call. So we haven't really gotten into making our own functions. So I'm going to do that right now. And we're going to do it in a little bit of an intermediate way. We're going to select all of this code, and I'm going to hit Control and period. And I'm going to do extract method. Another way of doing it is, and if you're using a different IDE, Writer is my IDE, you might be using Visual Studio, you can right click and show context actions, and you can select extract method and then select extract method. It's just a little bit longer way of doing the same thing. So I'm going to name this on submit, and you can see down here, it shows you on submit. Now, I don't know if Visual Studio, you have to add those parentheses in, but it shows you right here what the method will look like. And then I'm going to hit next, and generally it'll create it right below your update. So remember, update runs every frame. This is always running when I press play. So it's always checking this on submit method. So this is the function call. This is the two parts of a method or function. One, you have where you create the function, and part two is where you call it. So now if I save this and I press play and I just hit tab inside of here, it should still do the same thing as last time, where it puts no name inside of there if I don't enter a name. And that becomes my player name. So I hit tab, you can see welcome to No Name Adventure, and it still seems to work fine. Now, something else about refactoring or cleaning up code that happens quite often is our classes tend to change over time, right? And what I mean by that is, say I'm saying, you know what, this text adventure controller is too broad or too big of a name, because what we want to do is we want to be as clean with our code as possible, and so that people can read it and so that we understand it, it's not too scary. So I'm going to actually change this entire script around so that it's just about setting up my player. So asking for the name, letting him select the player type. So I'm going to double click this, or I think I could just click inside of this and hit Control RR or F2. And I'm going to rename this to Player Setup Controller and hit Next. And what you'll notice is inside of our project here, it'll automatically change the file name for us, as well as change so that the class matches the same thing. The only thing I need to do in here is rename text adventure here. Let's kind of zoom out a little bit here. And I'm going to click inside of my inspector, hit Control A and then Control V, and just rename this. Now you could see player name here is no name. You could type in whatever you want because we made it a public string. So instead of no name, you could say secret name or something, I don't know, something fun. All right, so let's talk about switch statements. I know we're getting into that a little bit late. What I'd like to do is have it check inside of here and say, okay, welcome to your text adventure what are you? A wizard, a spy, a mage, whatever it is you want your players to have options for your adventure game. What would you like them to be? Because that adds an extra layer of fun. If not only do we know the player's name, but we also know, like what kind of warrior they are, or magician or something. Right. So for that, we're going to be adding another field. So we have this public string called player name. That's no name. I'm going to duplicate this, and let's just go ahead and name this. Let's add a header in here, and this will clean up our code. So I'm going to type in header, and I'm going to open parentheses and put in quotes here, UI references, and I'm going to save this. And you could see in here that if I click inside of here, we have UI. Oh, we get an error. Oh, I never renamed this. So this is going to be player name. This will be player type, and we'll just make this none. That should get rid of our error. So now when I click inside of here, we have UI references here. That should block those out. And I'd like to have another one. So we copy this, and we'll make another header here, and this will just be called scripts. And this will be a reference to external scripts, because we're going to make an external script that's going to handle the logic for the player type. And then we could have this and just call this player names. And that way anybody who looks at our code will be like, oh yeah, that's cool. Okay, I get it. Like these are the players' names, or player, whatever. Player, I could type info actually, that probably would be better. All right, so let's save this. And let's make a new script that has a script statement inside of there. And then we'll plug that in here to reference it. And that script is going to be just a switch statement that lets us to go between this script and the other one to allow us to select different types. So right click on your scripts folder, create a new model behavior script, and we're going to name this player type selector. And what I can do is, just for now, we have this player setup controller. I just grab my player type selector and I just place it on top of here. And what I have is, again, if I select my player type selector here, if I want to make a reference to another variable, I have to make sure that it's of the same name. So let's go ahead and get rid of this comment here. And we're going to type player type selector space, and then we'll go ahead and just use the same name, but I'm going to get rid of the underscore. Some studios use the underscore to signify anything that's a private variable. And so let's put this on a new line. And now when I save this, let's go ahead and delete this because we're not going to get into get component just yet. So I'm going to make this public actually. And I'm going to save this and go inside here. So now when I select this, you could see I have an open script called player type selector, and I could just grab this and drop it inside of there. And so now this variable here is connected to this script. Let's grab this script and just drop it inside of here. Sorry, I keep grabbing the other one. All right, so what a switch statement allows us to do, it's pretty cool. It's sort of like the if statement in that it allows you to check if something is true or false, but it does it by giving you many options based on that parameter. So I'm just going to repurpose this this starts method here. And what I'm going to do is, instead of saying void start here, I'm going to change it to void, or not void, but I'm going to make it a variable that can return a string. And we're going to make this public because we want to access this from another script. So public string. And we're going to say determine player type is what I want to call this. And I want to pass in, so it says string typed text, because what we're going to do is we're going to allow them to type out an option, and it's going to pass that inside of here. So if they type mage or artist or warrior or whatever, and maybe we'll make this we'll make it more about like a modern day like detective game instead of like a warrior mage or whatever type thing. So let's say, okay, so we have this variable here. We have a little error here because what I like to do is I just put return null just to get rid of that for now, but we'll change it later. So we haven't actually created our switch statement yet. All right, and to save a bit of time, instead of going line by line, I'm just going to go ahead and pause the video and type it out. All right, pay close attention because I got rid of that other return. So what's happening here is we have a public variable, a public method here that we're going to call from our other script. And we have this switch. And what's going to happen is we're going to type in detective, artist, socialite, or whatever. You could always add more by copying this, like hitting enter to put a space here, highlighting this and hitting Control D to duplicate it. And you could say, you know what, I want to have not only socialite, but coppa. And then you want to return the word cop. So all this method does is it returns, when we call it, it says public string, one of these based on whatever the choice is. Okay. So if they type in here cop, it's going to take in this value because it's a variable of type string, and it's going to store cop. And it's going to automatically convert anything they type in. So say they type in capital C for cop, it'll automatically check it to lower because otherwise we're going to get an error, and then we'll return cop. If they type something else in, it'll return unknown as their option because we need to sort of think about every possible option. They might type something else. So let's save this. I'm actually going to copy this chunk of information here because I'm going to use it inside of my player setup script. So let's go back into player setup controller here. And let's scroll all the way down and to on submit. And actually before that, we need to create some logic. Well, actually, let's just type this out and then we'll see what problems arise. And then we'll create something called a couple Boolean variables, which are yes or no variables, 0 or 1 variables, true or false variables. And what these are used for is in games is we use them a lot as a switch to turn things on and off or to check if something is happening. All right, so let's go ahead and move our input field down. And actually, we sort of need, let's see, we have this if statement. And we have this kind of working. And then we have output text, welcome to player text adventure game. And for now, I'm going to clear this field here because what I can do is we have this output text, welcome to player's name's adventure game. And let's see. I guess we could, clear it. I'm going to press enter here. And then we're going to have to fix all this up because we're kind of writing in this long sequence. So I'm going to go ahead and hit Control D, duplicate this line, hold Alt, and just move it below this. And let's go ahead and say, actually, let's just do this here. So welcome to, we'll just do welcome player name here. And then what we'll do is, adventure game, welcome player name to your adventure. And then we can put a \n, and this will move this to the new line. And then I'm going to hit plus. And then just to give us space, I'm going to put another set of quotes. And I'm going to say, what type of player are you? ? We might have to adjust our text box if this runs over. And then space plus, and then quotes, type. I'm going to paste these in here, and then I'm just going to do a little bit of deleting just because of laziness. So type colon detective, comma, space, artist, socialite. I'm leaving those spaces in there. Cop, and then that's it. You could do a new line here and then just kind of button all this stuff up. plus, there. Got my semicolon there. Quotes. And then we want press tab to continue. All right, let's test this out. And then we'll write the if statement that registers their switch statement. So I'll press play here. It says, please enter your name. I'm going to enter Alex. Tap. And then, yeah, it goes way too low. Let's see if we can get this. Let's see. I think the press tab to submit can actually go away for now. And then let's just grab this input field here. Just move it way down here. And then output text field. Let's make this 20. Press play. You know what? We do need to have the tab in there. So let's make this 25. Please, let's see. Oh yeah, we have it. Press enter tab. Okay. So that's all working. Please enter your name. Let's go ahead and type in Alex. Tab. Welcome Alex to your. We got rid of that apostrophe s. To your adventure. What type of player are you? Detective, artist, socialite, cop. Press tab to continue. All right. So we're at 17 minutes. Let's go ahead and just write that method really quick. I'm going to pause the video, and then we'll go through that together so that it doesn't eat up too much video time. All right, so we have this on submit here, and we're going to be, I think in the next video, because we're getting pretty long here, we're going to add those Boolean logic checks, but I just want to show you how we can kind of get this working. So we have this if statement, and it's just checking if this is null, right? So let's go ahead and add another if statement as a check. So we're going to say if tab, and what we could say here is, actually before this, let's go ahead and get the player type, right? So we have this thing that says output text, detective, artist, or socialite, or whatever, right? So, and this part can seem a little confusing. So let's go back up here and just reiterate something. Do you remember that we have this input field here, and it's of type input field, right? And down here, we are saying, okay, input field this, we clear our input field, and then here we have entered name, input field.text trim, right? So if they type anything in to the input field here, and then they press tab, it'll enter it here, right? So let's see. Let's go ahead and say that we also want to check, let's see. I think we need those Boolean variables. All right. I think what we'll do is, let me go ahead and delete this, and we're going to end this video here because it's getting a little long. And what we did, again, essentially in this video is now we have this input. Let's watch it one more time. And then in the next video, that way you can get some water, take a break. What we'll do is we'll go in here and we'll, oh, you know what? Here's another thing. Notice that the text went off base there. Let's fix that. That'll be another thing to fix. So go up to your canvas here, not pixel size, but scale with screen size. And we still have to do a little bit of adjustment, but now when we do scale with screen size, you can see it always stays the same. So here's our title. Like the title here, or that's the tint. Here's our title. Let's move that down just below it. Game text is fine. If we press play here, and I type in Alex, hit tab, it says what type of character you are. If I type detective and I hit tab, it just loops here. So that's what we're going to fix in the next one. Is I'm going to introduce you to Boolean variables, and then we're going to change the logic inside of here to check what state we're in, right? Are we in a state where we're asking for a name, or are we in a state that's asking for what player type we are?